Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Q&A. This is for May 2014, and before we get started I want to remind you that you can search through every single question we've ever been asked. I don't know why I did that motion. Down below in the description there's a convenient link that'll take you over to the site where you can type in like a search term and it'll bring up a question. I only mention that because a lot of times people ask questions that we've answered before. Sometimes you can ask a question again because
answers can change.
Answers can change, but some of the things like they can't, like childhood experiences or whatever. So if you are curious, you should go check it out. Type in a few search terms and do that. Anyway, let's get started. First question.
All right. What is your earliest childhood memory from Poketar?
I have a hard time remembering a lot of my childhood stuff. In fact, most everything before I was like 10 or 12 is really blurry. Like very little childhood memories. But the earliest one that I can remember is I remember being on my front porch whenever I was a kid. It was a screened-in porch, and I remember seeing a snake. And I remember coming inside. I must have been very, very young, maybe 3 or something like that. And I don't know if I saw it or Mom saw it or something, but my mom or I saw it, and Dad was at work. And I remember that she had to call him and let him know, and like he either came home or we just waited inside until he came home and he could take care of the snake. But that was like my earliest memory that I have. What's yours?
There was a tornado when I was really young, and this is the first house I have in memory, so it's really, really old. And Carly was young enough to be taking naps, but I wasn't. So there was a tornado and the siren was going off and it was a really bad storm, and my mom had put us both in the basement and Carly was asleep, and I remember like climbing up the stairs from the basement to just peek over the top one. And I was old enough to know that, you should be in the basement when the sirens are going off. And I was like, Mom, you need to get in the basement. And she's like, no, I gotta wipe up the floor. There's water leaking in from the windows. Because we had a sunroom and there was like windows.
Do you have an idea of how old you were? Like 3, 4, 2, 5?
3 or 4 maybe. 2 went to work. Carly would have been like an infant.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, that's as early as I can remember. And like I said, even if you ask me other childhood memories from back then, they're like non-existent. I don't know what happened, but at some point I just forgot everything before I was like 10 or 12, which is really sad. Anyway.
Just when your hair changed colors.
Clearly. Anyway, go ahead.
Next question. What game controller is your favorite from U2323?
What's your favorite controller?
Super Nintendo.
Really?
I like the way it feels. Like
Super Nintendo is your favorite controller.
N64 is like, what the heck is going on
N64
here?
is arguably the worst controller, yes. But why is it? That's weird. I mean, I love the Super Nintendo as a console, but I don't think it has the best controller.
I like the buttons.
Huh?
I like the buttons.
Okay.
You want to know what modern one I like?
Well, I mean,
PS3.
it doesn't. You are very confusing me. The best controller, in my opinion, is probably some sort of strange tie between the 360 and the GameCube. They have the most comfortable controllers.
The GameCube is nice, but
I think that the controllers for the 360 and the GameCube are probably some of the most comfortable with the best button layouts. I think the PlayStation controller is not very comfortable.
I like it.
I mean, it's not that I don't hate it, but if you were giving me the option between PS3 and Xbox 360 controllers,
yeah,
I would go with 360, like no questions asked.
I mean, the other thing is like our hand size.
Is that play effect? I mean, but the fact that you chose, I mean, don't get me wrong, Super Nintendo is a good controller.
Yeah.
It's comfortable to hold, the D-pad is great, all the D-pads on Nintendo stuff is great, but I'm just saying, I would rather go with the
Your
other.
hands are like this much bigger than mine are.
Does that make a big difference, maybe?
I think so. Like with being able to reach buttons and stuff.
You're probably one of the people that hated the original Xbox controller.
Yes, very much so.
The gigantic ones, they called them the Dukes. Yeah.
I hated them.
I didn't have a problem playing with that, but I actually prefer the smaller Xbox controller. Anyway, too much time spent on this question. Move on.
Next question. Did you have a senior trip in high school? If so, where? From Ben, 1245-68-9.
Ben, numbers. Yes, my senior trip was to Europe, actually. We went to England. We went to London specifically, and then we went to...
You took a bus, right?
Well, I don't know where we landed, but we ultimately wound up in London for a few days, and then we spent a few other days at... I'm not going to remember the stupid name of it. It's...
Normandy Beach?
Utah Beach.
Okay.
It's like Saint Marie de Glis, some French thing I can't say. Utah Beach, and then we went to Paris. And that was, yeah, and actually, I filmed the entire thing. I shot 13 hours of footage over the course of that, whatever it was, like 10-day trip. And in high school, I edited it to, I condensed to a 3.5-hour movie, which is way too long. And I sold it to classmates and everything. And that used to exist online. It doesn't exist now, but at some point,
you want to recut
I want to recut it and put it on YouTube.
Like you've been saying for years.
One day I will. It's full of copyrighted music and stuff, so it has to be recut anyway. But I would love to condense it to a nice, like, 30-minute film or something like that that people can enjoy and put it online. I don't know if I'll ever get around to doing that, but I would really like to. Your senior trip.
I never had one.
Oh.
We were supposed to have a senior band trip, and we never did because the year before we had done like an all band, all grades trip for band, and I couldn't afford that, so I didn't get to go on any.
Well, I'm gonna take you to Europe.
When?
No, whenever you want. But not whenever you want, man. Like
a couple years.
Yeah, at some point we'll get back to London and
Paris.
Paris. I'd like to go back. Anyway, go.
Next question. Nintendo has a no monetize policy. How does this affect you and other Let's Players? From PH Scale 8.
First off, and this is just because it was in your question, I left that in. Nintendo doesn't have a no monetize policy. Nintendo doesn't have a policy, which is sad. A lot of game companies, stupidly or upsettingly, do not have a monetization policy. Some game companies do. Some game companies are like, yeah, monetize our stuff, or no, don't monetize our stuff. But too many companies don't put it out there, which is really upsetting. It doesn't necessarily matter if they have a policy on it, because as far as fair use goes, even though it's an incredible gray area and we don't have any actual laws about, Let's Playing, it should be protected under fair use because you are commentating on the product. It's also not a static thing. It's not a movie. It's a game that you bend to your will. You alter the gameplay yourself.
Interactively.
Yeah, it's an interactive thing, so it's different. So it shouldn't actually matter anyway, but if companies come out and say, well, crap, yeah, do Let's Plays, you can monetize our content, that's helpful. But Nintendo doesn't have one. So if a company doesn't have one, then generally you can just do it. The problem is, a lot of times is that you'll do something like that and then YouTube will be like, do you have permission to do this? And then you have to be like, well, fair use dictates blah, 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 blah. And depending on who's working that day, they may or may not accept it. That's one of the reasons people join networks, is because if you do that, you join a network, they don't ask questions. It just works. To add one more thing to that though, if a company blatantly says, like, do not make monetized content, or monetize, stuff of our content, then it's best to not. Which I guess is like, straightforward. There's a few companies that don't have stances, but say that they don't like it. There's a few companies that, they haven't come out and say, no, don't do this. They're just like, we prefer if you don't. But even so, with that statement, that's still not a don't do it. That's just like, we don't really like it. Which, I mean, some companies, it's like Beyond Two Souls, is that it? The same people that made Heavy Rain and also Heavy Rain, like, they don't want you to do it. Which makes sense, because their entire game is just like a giant cutscene. So, anyway, move on.
Next question.
Yeah.
How do you avoid burnout working on your StephenPlays channel? From godlessrecidivite.
Recidivite.
Okay.
Recidivite. Mostly, I think it comes down to doing things that you enjoy. I don't want to throw out any hate towards any other channels at all, but some people do games that are new for the sake of the fact that they're new. A new game comes out and they're like, well, this is going to be popular, I need to do this right now. And if they want to do that, power to them, but I think that would drive me crazy. If I had to play games that I didn't actually want to play, I think I would lose my mind. So I think the biggest thing to prevent burnout for myself is to make sure that I'm always doing games that I legitimately want to play. Even if I'm doing something blind, I'm playing it because I wanted to play that game. It's never like, I'm gonna play this game because like, it just came out. Like even like with Skyrim. I played Skyrim the day it came out, but I'm also a huge Elder Scrolls fan, and I'd been looking forward to that game for years, so whenever it came out, I was like, oh my god, I get to play this! And apparently I liked it because I've been playing it now for, you know, almost 3 years, so I think that's a good way to avoid burnout, because then you are playing games that you enjoy. It's, you know, it's the same as if you were going to sit down and play a game for fun. You're just playing it and also talking, and that's kind of how I view it. That's how I manage to avoid burnout, I think.
Cool.
Anyway.
Next question. You ever broken any bones? Sorry.
Have you ever broken any bones?
I haven't. Have you?
I have also not. I think it's because I avoided sports for the most part.
Did you ever get stitches?
I have had stitches. I've had not very many. I think I've had a few here on my leg. Knee. And then...
I had a couple on my chin.
I had a few on my leg down here too. I had a mole removed down here, and they had to stitch it up because it was pretty gigantic or something. And I actually remember that like the stitches were supposed to dissolve, and they didn't. And after a few months, one day I just pulled it, and it was like, and it came out, and I was like, that's disgusting. As far as the thing up on my leg, I was probably like 10 years old, and we used to have this gigantic, maybe we still have it, at my parents' house. It's a gigantic candle holder, and it's ceramic. And we placed it, we had moved it from the center of the table to the side of the table. My dad and I got down onto the floor to play cards, and I was on the floor. It was sitting at the edge of the table, and I got up off of the floor, and when I did, my leg got caught on the candle holder, and it just sliced my leg right open.
I mean, this thing sounds really ridiculous, but it is a really nasty candle holder. Yeah, like
there's
like ceramic petals that are like razor thin.
Yeah, and it cut me right open, and but we still have it. It's actually kind of scary. But that's the only time I've ever had stitches, and we've never broken any bones because we have avoided physical activity our entire lives. Anyway,
have there ever been 2 vlogs with the same title, and how do you avoid this? From Chris.
As far as I know, there have never been 2 vlogs that have the same title. But whenever I'm editing something, I can generally tell if it could possibly be something that we've already done. Because if we do something really, really crazy weird, like there's a vlog titled like Radioactive Mole Poison. I know for a fact that I've never called any other vlog Radioactive Mole Poison, so when I'm editing and I choose that as the title, I'm like, alright, I don't even have to bother looking that up. But sometimes it'll be like kind of a generic word, you know? Like the other day, I was trying to decide on a vlog and I was thinking about calling it Lonely. And I went to the StephenVlog page and I typed in Lonely, and that was the name of a vlog. And I was like, okay, I don't want to call it Lonely, so I'm going to call it something else. But do I actually care if I titled 2 vlogs the same thing? Not really. Because in my opinion, the day number is a part of the title. Yeah. So if there was like Lonely Day 362 and Lonely Day 1692, like it wouldn't matter to me very much because the vlog day numbers separate them. But I do kind of try to keep them different. Anyway.
Okay. What was the hardest and easiest classes you took in college?
From Eric.
Eric, 1037-5.
You answer first.
The hardest class was probably probability and statistics.
Gross.
I took that class because I needed a math credit when I transferred between my 2 colleges, even though I had tested out of math originally.
Or bad.
Yeah, and then they were like,
gotta do it anyway.
Take stats because it's the easiest math class we have. You'll get through it easy. You test it out of like trig and pre-calc, you'll be good. I got a D+ in trig. Or, I'm sorry, stats and pre-calc. And I went back to my lady that I saw to help me set up my classes.
My lady.
And she was like, how are you getting a D in this class? And I was like, I'm really good at math and I don't get it. And she's like, well, you know, maybe, she's like, who do you have? And I told her the name of the professor and she said, yeah, we've been having some trouble with her. And I'm like, what do you mean? I could have taken like Math 101 and done like A+ work and gotten a good GPA, but no.
No. What was your easiest class?
I don't know. Painting, maybe. I had some easy art classes, but I mean, it was just go there and make work. It was stressful, like in the sense of like I need to put so much of my own effort into it, but
my hardest class by far was Chinese art. I made A's and B's all through college. There was many quarters where I had straight A's, which is nice. But Chinese art was the lowest score I got in college, which was a C, and I still to this day don't know how I got by with a C. I hated that class. I did not like the professor. If you're watching this right now, you had a terrible class and you're a terrible professor, and I think you should know that. The class was about Chinese art, but what it was really about was learning Chinese. Even though that wasn't supposed to be the class. You were supposed to be studying Chinese art, you know, art in China throughout the ages. And instead we learned whatever the name of their language is.
Mandarin?
Yeah, but written Mandarin. Is there a name for written Mandarin? I don't know. But that's what we ended up learning. And we learned to read and write Chinese, which was not what we were supposed to be doing. And in between that, he would tell us about his fishing trips. And it was just a really, really terrible class. I had no interest in learning to read or write Mandarin. But I did for a while, and it was kind of cool. But also, I was more interested in the art aspect, and the art history that we learned was very minimal, and it was kind of upsetting. But the thing that sucked was that Taylor took the class with me, and we did so well, you know, keeping up with everything and going to all these classes. And then we decided that it was the class. Okay, there were 3 classes left. And we decided that on this class, we were going to skip because we had been working on so many other projects. It was getting near the end of the quarter, and we didn't want to do it. And then this class was going to be the review, and this class was going to be the final. So we were like, well, we'll definitely get to the review, so we write everything down, and then we'll go to the final. Well, it just so happens that on the class that we missed, he announced that everything was going to move forward today because he had a friggin' fishing trip. So what happened was the day that we missed was the review. The day that we thought was the review was the final. So we walked in on the final, and that was like the worst moment of my entire life. It was to go in there expecting to do a review, and then him handing out the final. It's on the vlog. You can actually go back and search for Chinese art exam or whatever, and it's on there. And I tell the story of how I went up to the front of the class and groveled in front of the professor, like, with the balls. And he was such a jackass and said that I've been announcing this since the first day of class, remember, students? And he never said that, and the stupid class agreed with him, because I paid attention in that class. It was very upsetting. The easiest class was film history.
I was gonna say your first quarter senior thesis class.
Oh, that actually was easier than film. Film history was easy because all we did was watch movies. We watched movies and then we talked about them. That was it. But easier still was probably my first quarter senior class because I was on, you had to be on a team because I was an editor, so I was on the team of Phoenix Beyond, but Phoenix Beyond was in pre-production, so I had nothing to do. So I actually just went to class and did nothing, but film history was more fun because at least we get to watch movies.
Our next question, Mal, do you ever have casual discussions with your students about video games? From FancyOreo. Pretty frequently, actually. They'll be talking about something. If I'm sitting there helping them, they'll be talking, you know, oh, you know, I was playing blah, blah, blah last night. I was like, oh, you know, I just did the Merryweather mission in GTA. And they're like, oh, I just finished that one like a week ago. And I'm like, yeah, I'm behind.
Does it ever catch them, or did it originally catch them off guard whenever you would interject and know what they were talking about because you knew video games?
Yeah. Less so with like Mario. I have a few students really into like Mario and Sonic, and less so with that because I mean I could have grown up with that. They don't know. But like the new games, I was talking about Last of Us with someone. I was like, don't you dare spoil that game for me because I wasn't done with it yet. So that sort of throws them off for a little bit, but sometimes they'll come up and talk to me about whatever it is they're playing.
Yeah. I think it's cool.
Next question?
Yeah.
Alright. What's the worst movie you've ever seen from Sarah Jody Lathorp?
Lady in the Water. Terrible. Just terrible movie. I mean, just awful. And actually, a lot of the movies that, what's the guy that, what's his name? The guy that made Signs.
Oh.
Shimalaya Malaya Malaya Malan. That guy. A lot of his movies. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan. Like, a lot of his movies are really bad. Signs, I remember being pretty good, but I was young, so maybe it was bad. But he made The Happening with Wahlberg. God, what a terrible film. The trees are gonna kill us all. I actually watched the entire film on fast forward, so it would take less of my time. It was still with the audio, but in college we wanted to watch The Happening because we heard it was so terrible, and we watched it on double speeds on the Xbox so we could get through it faster, and it took 40 minutes, and it's 40 minutes I'll never get back. It was awful, had an awful premise, had an awful plot, like the movie itself was terrible, but the worst movie I've ever seen is Lady in the Water, which was also by him.
Birds wasn't that bad.
Birdemic?
Yeah, Birdemic.
Yeah, but Birdemic is good because it's bad. Birdemic is worth watching because it's so stupid and terrible. But Lady in the Water is boring. Lady in the Water is one of those things, if you start watching it, you'll just be like, oh my God, I can't do it. Put my mom to, my mom is the one who wanted to see it. Put my mom to sleep, 12 minutes, gone. I was like, wow, this is crazy. My dad didn't last much longer either, and I sat there and watched it by myself.
I can't really answer this because I've seen almost every Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be hard for you to answer because all the movies they riff on are terrible. Mm-hmm. Okay, well then don't.
Okay, next question. Do you feel that the StephenVlog Q&A series help you learn more about each other from TheSilverSnake?
Do you?
Not really.
Really?
There's been very few times where it's something I didn't know. Very few. I can't even remember any.
Oh. Well, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say that there's actually been a good handful of times that we've talked about something and maybe you've elaborated more on a story that you haven't before. So I've been like, oh, hey, I learned something. I mean, like, in general, no. It's not like every time we answer a question, I'm like, ooh, I didn't know that. But usually once in every, 3 videos or something, there's probably a fact. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that or something like that.
Okay. Maybe.
We're not on the same page at all. Ow! Anyway, that really hurt.
Yeah.
Christ almighty, why'd you hit me so hard? Or was it me?
It was you.
Was it that I didn't know how far away we were, so I was... Doggone it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, leave questions down below. We'll get to them next month. And do be sure to check the description link because it'll show you all of the questions we've ever answered in case you're wondering if we've answered it before. Yeah. And do that. We'll see you guys next month for another Q&A.